Hey guys, welcome back to Ironside Ranch. We've got a really special guest tonight. We've got Michael from the Dallas Half Acre Farm. He's going to talk to us a little bit about getting a small farm started. Obviously, he's on about a half an acre. If I remember right, he told me he didn't even quite use that much. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about making a production model system. So I guess starting out to kind of feed your family and then moving into actually making a little bit of a side income off of this. And so he's definitely the expert on kind of this whole small scale thing that we can have on as far as the plant-based portion of it. You know, we do all meat here. The only gardening that we do is for us individually. And so he's going to talk to us a little bit about how to do that. So that being said, Michael, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the show. Followed you for a long time. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on and reaching out. And guys, just so you know, if you want to come on the channel, it's real easy to reach out to us. Ironside Ranch LLC at gmail.com. You can send us an email, and I love to bring anybody on and do interviews. So if you want to come on and you got some interesting topics you want to discuss, just shoot me an email. So I guess to start this out, Michael, you know, you had mentioned you really want to talk about why why people should get into small scale farming. And what what's the benefits, and we've talked about that a little bit on our channel because obviously we're a small scale farm. You know, we're 20 acres, so for cattle ranching, that's very small scale. So if you want to talk a little bit about why people should be doing this.
Yeah, well, first of all, you got to have a love for it. You don't do it for the money. But if you have a love for gardening, which I did, I've had a garden since I was 7 years old with my grandma out in the side of her house planting tomatoes, and then I went to college and had a garden. And I just love it. I was 22-year-old, hungover as hell kid, out watering my tomato plants at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, like, I just always loved gardening. And just a quick backstory, I found urban small-scale farming through Curtis Stone, the urban farmer on YouTube. He blogged for a full year, basically is the blueprint, him and J.M. Fortier, either one of those guys on YouTube. They have thousands of hours of videos that you can learn from. And I found him and said, hey, I think I can do this. And this guy's making like $150,000 off of a half acre, just selling vegetables that I already grow. You just have to learn how to scale up. So anyway, got my farm started and it's gone great. I'm a full-time teacher. I teach here outside of Dallas, Texas. I got 3 kids, a wife, full-time career, and I still find time to do this on the side because I love it. The money's pretty good, and when I retire, that's what I'll do full-time. So that's kind of the backstory of it.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so let's talk about the scalability of this, what you're doing. And I guess actually before we get into that, you want to tell us specifically what you're growing, what plant products you're selling? Are you growing, predominantly one type of product or a couple types, or are you growing everything?
I try to grow everything. Here in Texas, I'm not going to lie to you, the weather sucks. Like literally last weekend, it was 74 at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was 22 the next morning when we woke up. So the weather plays a big part in what we're able to grow. So I grow mainly salad mix, and then I grow everything that you can put in a salad mix because I'm direct to consumer. I don't sell to restaurants or grocery stores or anything like that. So when I started my business model, I said, what does everybody eat? And salad was the first thing that came up. And then I thought, great, I'll sell salad. Sold the crap out of the salad mix. It was, very profitable. And then as I started growing, what can I just sell to the same people I already have? Like Joel Salatin says, value add. Mm-hmm. You already got the customers. Just go ahead and sell them more of whatever you have. So I started doing some more research with Curtis Stone and J.M. Fortier, and I found radishes were really quick to grow. You can grow a radish in 3 to 4 weeks. You can grow a whole lot of them in a little bitty space. So I started growing radishes. Boom, sold them to the people. Then during the summer came on, and I started growing tomatoes. Of course, everyone loves cherry tomatoes on salad. So start growing cherries, cherry tomatoes and spring onions. You chop them up and put them on the salad. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. And now I'm into like zucchini and cucumbers and squash and kale and just the basic, nothing fancy. Pretty much everything you buy at the grocery store. It's just mine, fresh, local, and has absolutely no pesticides or fertilizers of any kind.
Are you doing any hydroponics at all to grow? The salad greens are real common with that sort of crowd. So are you messing with that at all?
No. that's great for people who love that. I love to get my hands dirty. I think we're going to need hydroponics in the future just for scalability and the amount of food that we're going to have for year-round growing. But for me, that's not what I want to do. I want dirt and dirt on my fingernails and that kind of farming. So I don't do hydroponics. One of my best friends does. Got a huge 40,000-gallon water tanks at the State Fair of Texas, and he does hydroponics, but not for me.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about this. When you had originally reached out to me, Michael, you had said that you wanted to try to kind of help teach people to get their farm started and again, just, starting with yourself and then kind of moving on from there. One of the biggest questions that everybody has and every small farmer has is, how the hell do I sell my product, right? So the marketability of this. So you want to kind of touch on that a little bit about what you found successful in marketing-wise to get your product out there?
Yeah, I've had 2 or 3 things that worked really well. First thing was just old-fashioned word of mouth, give it away for free. If you like it, call me back. I'll bring you some more. Tell your friends. I do a referral program. Anytime you give, somebody calls me and says, hey, John referred me. John gets free salad and bag of vegetables the next time I deliver. Yep. So that's kind of an incentive for people. And plus, people just love the product so much they want to share it with their friends.
Yeah.
So word of mouth
kind of what we found too.
Instagram has been huge. Oh, go ahead.
No, there's a slight delay, so I don't mean to interrupt you. That's kind of what we found too on our farm is that people really like the products, and so that word of mouth spreads. And if you get people that are used to traditional products that want to go buy a cheap, horrible head of lettuce from the grocery store, and some people you're never going to convince that there's a certain aspect that you have to pay quality for your food, and you can't always convince people of that. And like Grandma used to say, right, those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still. You end up in that boat. But yeah, that's definitely what we found, and we do the same thing, actually doing samples and stuff like that. So it's interesting that you're doing kind of the similar marketing platform that we are with, I guess a similar design, but a very different product, right? You're the plant-based portion of it. Are you doing like Facebook marketing, Craigslist? Are you doing internet ads or anything like that at all?
I don't do a whole lot of Facebook just because it's so already watered down with ads.
Yeah.
And the way I want to market my farm is with pictures, which I know you can do that on Facebook, but Instagram's just been killer for me. There's some farms that I watch and I see, and their pictures like catch my eye. So I automatically think, okay, I stopped and looked at that picture because it was just a beautiful tunnel or bed of lettuce. I'm going to take that same picture at my farm and I'm going to post it. And people just flock to, they just want to see pretty pictures of nature. They want to see pretty pictures of their own food. I'll take pictures.
That's really interesting because people think that you have to get a photographer involved to get those product pictures. And, the reality of it is that modern day cell phones, your camera is so exceptional on those that, you can go out there and you can take some really nice photos if you just, focus a little bit on your lighting, get the staging right and everything, and take a dozen of them or so. You'll find a photo that looks really good for an Instagram post or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll even take pictures because I harvest at night, usually night or 5 o'clock in the morning before school, and take a picture and say, post on Instagram, great harvest, getting delivered in 3 hours. And I always get DMs and comments like, wow, you deliver the same day you harvest it? I say, absolutely. You get the freshest products you can possibly get, which is another big deal. If you're a new farm, you have to understand the product that you're selling against, which is grocery stores. So if you're selling against a grocery store, when you meet somebody or you tell them about your product, you compare your product to the product at the store. So I tell people, they always tell me, Mike, your lettuce stays fresh like 10, 12, 14 days. I said, yeah, because you got it on day one. If you buy a store-bought in California, it gets harvested, then it gets packaged, then it sits in a warehouse, then it gets stuck on a truck for 3 days, then it goes to Walmart. That's 7 or 8 days right there since it got harvested. Then you buy it on day 8 or 9 from Walmart, then it goes bad in 3, 4, 5 days. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why mine stays so much fresher. And I have people that buy one bag every 2 weeks. because it stays fresh for 2 weeks and it never goes bad or anything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I guess then the land requirements, and I don't want to get too into the numbers and have you push like financial information, but what kind of level of production is possible and this is going to change based on where they're at too. So don't we're not tying into anything. I guess just for a reference point, what's the land requirement for what you're doing in your area? Like, how much of your land are you using?
I have exactly 0.47 acres. It's just a rectangular lot, 70 feet, 75 feet wide, 180 feet deep.
Okay.
And I've got 930-foot beds on my farm, and I might use half of them. And then the other ones are in cover crop, or I'm still trying to get established, or whatnot, experimental things. But honestly, once you learn like how to intercrop, like I'll plant lettuce and radishes together and pull the radishes about the same time the heads of lettuce get big enough to start shading out the radishes. So like I don't have my own bed of radishes, for example. They're interplanted with the lettuce. So that's like a huge space-saving, money-making idea that you can do in there that just makes money and saves space, basically. But
yeah, it's good for the plants to a companion plant like that. It's a lot. They do a lot better. I know my wife does a lot of that. I think you and I talked about the other day that Carrots Love Tomatoes book that she really liked.
Yep. Yeah. No, interplanting is, number one, economical, very economical. It saves water, and when you get down to the soil science and radishes might be putting off something in their roots that the lettuce needs, and vice versa. You get into the whole soil science, Gay Brown, multi-diversity, species, growing stuff. It just makes sense. On top of it's easy. Yeah. And it makes you more money.
Yeah, if you were just, I think that's one of the problem with conventional farmers is they come to this with knowledge already in their head that they think that, this is the way to do it. And I always look at people and I think if you were to have to be forced into farming today, and you could go do the research and figure this out, which way would you do it? Well, you'd absolutely do it planting these polyculture farms and using the natural environment, natural ecosystems that they produce to actually benefit each other. I think that the proof is in the pudding, like you talked about Gabe Brown. If y'all haven't checked out Gabe Brown's channel or any of his videos, he's got a wealth of knowledge out there on how to do these and how to plant in a way that everything is I guess symbiotic and growing well together. So minimal land requirement.
Let me answer that question real quick.
Go ahead.
I kind of got off on a tangent there. I want to make sure I answer this question. What's the minimum amount of land requirement? This is what I've told several people. I've helped several people get started with like farms like mine. And I always tell them to start with one 50-foot bed. It doesn't have to be 50 foot, 40 foot, 30 foot, whatever you got. 3 feet wide. So that's a 36-inch bed, 40 feet long, 50 feet long. I prefer 50. And then divide that in half. And then that way you can kind of understand and work towards succession planting. So plant that first 25 feet with lettuce. And if you want to go real nerd, Salanova and Muir are the two types of lettuce that I grow. They're heat tolerant and very cold tolerant. I grow in 110-degree heat. As long as you got a little shade cloth, a little water, some shade cloth, it'll be fine. It'll look like crap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but at 5 o'clock in the morning when you go to harvest it, it'll be crisp, it'll be firm, it'll be pretty. You can harvest it. But you plant 4 rows. You can fit 4 rows of lettuce in a 36-inch bed, and you space them 8 inches apart. So you start doing the numbers. That's a lot of lettuce in a 25-foot bed. Mm-hmm. Now wait about 3 weeks and go and you do the other 25-foot bed, the other end of the 50-foot bed, and you do the exact same thing. Now you have alternating. You can harvest this, and then in a few weeks you go harvest the second half of that 25-foot bed. The kicker is both varieties that I grow, you get at least 2 cuttings on. Sometimes 3 in the fall when it's not too hot or too cold. So you harvest the first one, or you harvest on the first bed for 2 weeks. By that time, the second bed, 25-foot bed that you planted, is ready to go. So you start harvesting on it while that first bed is regrowing for your second cut. So you get done with that second 25-foot bed, you go back to your first, and you harvest that. So you see what I'm saying? You go back and forth, and it's basically an endless supply until that lettuce gets old, then you have to replant.
Okay, so that's to fill that size bed is an awful lot of topsoil and dealing with the soil amenities. I don't know if you're doing kind of an organic option there or how. Let me ask you this: if somebody goes out there and puts their bed together today, how do they get that filled economically and correctly?
So it depends on what's there now. If I always tell people to take a billboard sign, works great for me because I find billboard signs off Craigslist really cheap, $20. Mm-hmm. And lay it down, mow it real short, scalp it, lay it down, and let that sun do the work for you for, depending on the time of year. In June, July, and August in Texas, 3-4 weeks and that bed is scorched. The seeds are dead. You can just pull it back and you're ready to go. You can plant. If you want to do like a raised bed, put cardboard down and then do a raised bed, like 2x6s or something. Depends on what you grow. If you grow lettuce, you don't need a whole lot, just some nitrogen. Like I use soybean meal or cottonseed meal, or some people use coffee grounds, something that's just high in nitrogen. That's all lettuce needs. It's not a high feeder. Now, if you do tomatoes or peppers, that's a little bit more complicated. That's a high feeder and it needs, magnesium and calcium and all this other stuff. But as far as like lettuce, radishes, beets, they don't need a ton of, micronutrients. So I would throw down, like I said, some soybean meal, and I've actually got a video on my Instagram page that shows about how much. It's like just enough so you can see a thin layer on top of that 36-inch bed, and then just rake it in just a little bit. You don't want it setting directly on top, but just rake it in a little bit, lay your drip lines, and plant. You can throw in a little bit of compost if you want to, but if you're just planting lettuce, you don't need a lot of amendments or anything because it's such a low feeder.
I got you. Well, I know for us, we go to a local stable actually, and so we go get a stable and I'll go get a trailer full of manure, it's obviously got the straw and everything in there, and then we mix that in with our compost off of the chicken coop, and then everything else, our household waste that we're composting, not our waste, but like, scraps and stuff like table scraps and stuff like that we'll compost. And so we add that stuff in there, and then we tend to compost down in the orchard, and then that way all the nutrients that leaches into the ground goes into the orchard, and we can use the rest on the garden. Yep.
No, that's the perfect way to do it. People that don't have that don't have access to that kind of stuff. If somebody that's got rabbits are cold fertilizer. You can just throw the poop right on the bed. You don't even have to compost it. Yeah. Rabbit poops are great fertilizer. Chicken obviously is pretty high in nitrogen, so that's got to be composted down pretty well. I don't compost. I've got 14 laying hens that are laying right now for me, and I'm just going to rake up. I have a 28 by 14 chicken coop that I'll just rake up, put in a little pile, and wait till next year to mess with. But I don't have the time or energy to do the composting, so I just buy compost down the road from me.
I got you. Well, our goal, and you've been following the channel, so we're clearing land here, and so we have a lot of wood left over, and right now we're burning a lot of our slash piles. Eventually, we're going to get a chipper, and we'll start chipping it, and then we'll have the chipping for bedding for the livestock, and then that allows us to kind of bond that carbon with the nitrogen from the animals and create kind of a molecular bond there, and gives us basically really good compost to be able to use both on our fields and in our personal garden. So that's kind of the long term for us, and whether that develops into something where we're commercially producing vegetables is yet to be seen, but hopefully here soon. We're working more on the orchard and the livestock side of things. So I guess we talked about land requirements, scalability. This seems obviously like a very scalable model, what you're doing, something that can be grown to, as big or as little as you want it. And so that's fairly easy to determine. What are the water requirements like? I know some people that we have listening are over in California where they're dealing with droughts and stuff like that. I guess what are you finding as the most as an efficient way of watering that, especially for somebody like you that has to work all day and has time commitments elsewhere? How are you managing that?
Again, it depends on what you grow. Lettuce is 100% on drip. Now it doesn't have to be, but in Texas, the heat and humidity, If you overhead water at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have mold on your lettuce by 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it's just good. Lettuce is very tight, compacted together, so that water gets down in between those leaves, and then that sun hits it and the humidity, and you'll have mold or a fungus on it in a few hours. So I actually grow in caterpillar tunnels. I have they're from Bootstrap Farmer, 14-foot wide, 130 feet long, and I grow, yes, for the winter protection, but I also grow underneath them for spring and summer rains. In Texas, we get these storms that move in from the west, and they'll drop a half an inch in 30 minutes, and 20 minutes after that, it's 95 degrees again. Mm-hmm. And that will just destroy a lettuce plant. I mean, you can't grow greens with the humidity like that and that kind of temperature change. So I grow inside of caterpillar tunnels, and I recommend them. Obviously, they're not the first thing you want to buy, but if you're thinking about getting into it, check out Bootstrap Farmer. Check out the way they have the cheapest way to do it, because you basically build them yourself. They just send you the kit to help you build them, to bend the poles and everything. But caterpillar tunnels have been a game changer for small market gardens because they can I grow year round, because again, here it doesn't get that cold except for last February when it was frozen for 6 days straight down here. But normal, it doesn't get that cold. So, and one other thing people don't realize is greens, lettuce, kale, stuff like that, cold doesn't kill a lettuce plant. What kills it is frost. So like a dry 28, lettuce is perfectly fine. 27, perfectly fine. A frosty 34, dead. Because it freezes those molecules in the cell leaf, and it just kills them from that frost being on there. So obviously I want to keep the frost off my lettuce, and the caterpillar tunnels do that quite well. So I want to jump back 1 second to scalability. If you start with a 50-foot bed, like I talked about earlier, go ahead and look and see if you can put another 50-foot bed beside it, because I guarantee you, after you do your 50-foot bed and you see the amount of production and how easy it is and how much fun it is, you're going to want another one. And that's how you scale up. That's another great way. A great thing about small scale ag is it's so scalable. You go from 1 bed to 2 bed to 4 bed. Oh, 4 bed was too much. Let's cover crop this and go back to 3 beds. Or I don't want to farm this year. Throw some wheat seed on there during the winter, sorghum during the summer, cover crop all of it, and forget about it. So I just wanted to mention that about scalability. But as far as water goes, I only use drip irrigation for lettuce. And then the tomatoes and peppers, I usually use drip also if I can get the spacing right, because I always try to put the emitters next to the plant, but I can't do a foot apart with tomato plants. They get too big to do a foot apart. So sometimes, when it's really hot, I'll just hand water. That gives me a great chance to observe. Do I have worms eating my tomatoes? Do I have blight? Do I need to cut some leaves off while I'm watering? Like farming, I'm sure, just like raising cattle, you got to see them every day. Yeah. Like you want to see your produce every day. Does it have a disease? Does it have insects? That's part of farming, is just observing and making changes as you go.
I got you. So let me ask you this. One of the issues that my wife and I have run into trying to learn how to do this, and I grew up on kind of a small hobby farm in Idaho, and this is one of the things that I wish I'd paid more attention to with growing food. But one of the things that I always liked the animals, but I hated gardening growing up. So, but I guess one of the things that I find to be confusing is how much water, and how do I figure out how much to water my lettuce versus my tomatoes versus my peppers? Do you have a good solution there to help somebody get started with that?
This is going to sound really dumb, but I've done it 7 years and it works. I literally scrape down about a knuckle, maybe 2 knuckles, and as long as it's damp, it's got enough water.
Okay.
Tomatoes is a little different because, again, tomatoes suck in Texas. We can't grow the big ones, like the really big celebrities and Big Berthas and all those that you see in the grocery store. Impossible to grow in Texas because everything dries out so much because of the heat that when you do water them the next day, they fill up with water and the tomatoes burst and they look like crap. Still taste amazing, but you can't sell an ugly tomato. It'd be like selling a three-legged cow. Like, it's probably still perfectly fine, but nobody wants it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I saw a cow at the sale barn a couple of months back that it got docked on its price because it was missing its tail. It's like, who cares?
yeah, exactly. It's going to taste the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, though, with the watering, again, it's observation. Is it wilted? You know, I flooded last 2 springs ago. We had a hurricane hit the Gulf of Mexico, and it wasn't bad. It was like Category 1, but all the rain just dumped on us for like 3 days, and everything flooded. You could touch one of my lettuce heads like this, it would snap over because the stem was rotted.
Oh, wow.
Nothing I could do about it. So, you know, it's just observation. As long as the soil's damp and you can put your finger and you feel moisture in it, or like you see Joel or Gabe Brown, you can squeeze it and it clumps together, you got enough moisture.
Okay. Well, good rules of thumb. I appreciate it. So I guess, Mike, let's go ahead and wrap up there for this video, guys. We're going to do a second filming here and get a little bit more information out to you. And who knows, we'll if you got some subjects that you'd like Mike to talk about, post it down in the comment boxes. We'll see if we can get him back here as well to maybe answer some questions coming up. But Mike, before we close this out, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I got a lot.
Well, we'll do another video too, though.
No. Seriously though, guys, if you love gardening, like if you love going out there and planting and harvesting and watering and taking care of plants, please look up Curtis Stone, the urban farmer, on YouTube, JM4TA. Then there's tons of Instagram pages you can look at, because they will teach you how to make a good living. Like Curtis made $150,000 a year off of less than a half an acre, off of 9 months, because he's in Canada. So, you know, he doesn't farm the 3 months of winter. Like, there's so much money, and the need today is more than ever. I mean, we're going through the truck drivers being shut down here pretty quick from Canada and Mexico because they don't want to get the jab.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of food that's not going to be coming from Mexico. And I know here in Texas, everything from Mexico. And there's absolutely no sense in it. It's just because there's not enough produce here in Texas to do it.
Yeah, no, small-scale farming is definitely, I think, the way forward to fix a lot of these issues. So with that, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks again for watching. I'll post links to all of Mike's social media stuff down in the description, so if you guys want to check out his Instagram page and everything that he's got going on, it'll be down there in the description. Other than that, please remember to like the video, share the video if you know somebody that wants to get into gardening or is interested in starting some type of commercial hobby farm. Please share the video with them, and if you have not already done so, you should be subscribed to the channel, and thank you for your compliance there. All right, guys, we'll catch you next time.